So you've probably heard of Twitter before, yeah? Yeah? All right, cool. Excellent. Don't have to explain Twitter. You might be like me and not be a super fan of Twitter, especially lately. It feels like kind of a dumpster fire, not a great place to spend all of your time. But I'm here to tell you, not all tweets, right? There are corners of Twitter that are super fun, and this is one of them. There are people that are being just cool and whimsical and creative, and I want to invite you to come in and play in this space with us. Let me just say that I am not an expert tweetcart maker. The folks who do it are, there are, newbies like me, and then there are people that are like, you put the code there, and I still don't understand what it's doing. And that's cool. There's room for everyone. So, okay. I should probably back up a little bit. So we know what a tweet is. We know what a cart is. Haha. So this is a program called Pico 8. Has anybody ever heard of this before? Okay, more than no one. That's pretty good. They describe themselves as a fantasy console. So it's a place for making and playing tiny retro-style games. It compiles into a web page, so it's playable in the browser. And let's see if I can load an example game. Sound is not syncing super great, but so this is one of the demo games that comes with the dev kit. It sounds much better when it's not airplaying. And so you can make tiny cool games. Ooh, I broke it. There we go. All right, so why Pico 8? I just want to take a second and tell you about this thing because it's cool and nobody knows about it. Pico 8 is easy to pick up. It's tiny, there's not a lot to it, which means you get to play with all the pieces. You can kind of, you make mistakes, and that's cool, because you just hit Control-R and it resets, and you get to immediately see the changes that you're making and how it affects the game that you're making. Also, I should mention the code that you write for this is in Lua, which is a scripting language, and if you are like me and know JavaScript, it will not look strange to you. Arrays are one-indexed for reasons no one can fathom. Every language has its own potholes, right? Other than that, it's great. So, like I said, it's tiny, and it is highly constrained. Your screen is 128 by 128 pixels. You get 16 colors. You are limited in the amount of memory you get to use. They determine that by tokens. So every kind of meaningful unit that you type, a variable, an equal sign, a function declaration, that all counts as one token against you. You get like 8,100. People have made RPGs, but they're small. Anyway, so thinking about these constraints, it forces you to be creative because you can't just slap on the thing like you're used to, like, oh, how should I shade this rock? I get maroon or navy? And Pico 8 is a really good entry point for learning how to make games. Facebook notifications, super cool. So yeah, I'm a software engineer. I'm not a game developer. I work in a legacy .NET architecture that is very important and powerful and not especially exciting. Making games is fun, right? But I have no idea how to do it. The kinds of questions you have to ask yourself, the kinds of problems you have to solve. How do I make something move around on a screen, right? Super basic if you're going to make a game. Not something I ever am allowed to do at work. So in such a small environment, you get to ask yourself, what is the essence of a game? And you get to learn what is the minimum I need in order to make something that is fun. And then you can go on and learn Unity or whatever. And but this is a good place to start. So within this environment, I love that somebody looked at this and said, well, it's pretty small, but can we go smaller? Oh, I should mention too, I derailed myself in making this talk when I realized I could make my slides in Pico 8. This is what you're seeing, and I will be uploading the code when I clean it up, because I thought of a great name, Pico Point. Isn't it beautiful? So I'll post that on Twitter once I get it up. Anyway, so speaking of things that Pico 8 was not really designed to do, like we can make a game, or we can make something cool where all the code fits into a single tweet, which now that we have 280 characters, there's some like legit cool stuff out there. It's fun because optimizing for character length is absurd, right? Like, this is not a thing they teach you in code school, nor should they. And so, you bend your brain, and I don't know, maybe it leads to more creative insights in other fields, maybe not. It's just fun. Asking yourself the question, what is cool but small? What is a cool thing that I can do today? And because you're limited to such a small space, then you can probably build something pretty quick, and then you have built something, and that's really exciting. Because while I have not finished any games in Pico 8, I have started several. But what's really fun is that you get to use hacks. Oh, hacks, you say? These colors are maybe not the easiest to read. This font is retro, but. So some of the hacks you can use in order to compress these cool art things down, these are all just built into the Pico 8 library. We'll look at them in just a second. So poke lets you directly set bits in memory, and that's a good way of programmatically making sound effects. It's like, all right, I know where the sound lives, so I'm going to flip this bit, and then I'm going to play the sound and hope it's not a disaster. But you're playing, right? You find out it's a disaster, and you go back and flip it to a different value, and maybe you'll get something cool eventually. PAL is short for palette. It lets you reassign which color number is associated with which color, which is a quick way of making things change colors in not a lot of characters. Go to. This makes me happy. There is a game loop built into Pico 8. There's a update function and a draw function, and they both get called 30 times a second. But function update is way too many characters. So we just bypass that entirely. We use labels, we use goto, and it feels really funny. Renaming functions, the random comes up a lot, so if you type it a couple of times, you're going to want to just reassign it to R. These are things that would not pass a code review in my day job, but And then you get to use things like sine and cosine, which I had not looked at in 15 years. Like, oh yeah, I kind of remember what those are. They're wavy. Yeah, they make things move. And random, and T for time. And so you can combine all these things in cool ways. So this little animation was my Tweetcart. I managed to actually, it just fit in 280 characters. And here it is. Now, you don't have to use the built-in editor. You can type in VS Code or Atom or whatever and paste it in, but I like these colors. And while we're here, these are all tabs of code. So this is your code. This is where you edit your sprites. And here's all the colors you get. You can put the sprites on a map if you're building like a Legend of Zelda type game. Here's the sound. And I don't really know how to use it, except that this is the pattern that makes the Super Mario coin noise. So if you learn one sound effect, and then you can make like tracks and loops, and if you know the first thing about music, which I don't. Anyway, so here is my Tweetcart. We're setting a bunch of variables, clearing the screen. This marks the beginning of a loop. And then we've got 4. This is outer radius to inner radius step. And then basically a bunch of times we're going to set a pixel at a certain point on the screen to be a certain color, which is C. So what that does is it draws around in a circle, makes the radius a little bit smaller, draws around in a circle, until you get to the inner radius, because you want to leave the hole in the donut. This flips a bit to say, we have done that. Then we switch our radiuses. So now it spaces out a little bit so you can still see the donut on the inside, and then goes back out to the outside with the frosting. So see, we're setting our radius, our step, etc., and then it checks to see, have we done the frosting? No? Okay. In that case, then go back up and do the frosting. Otherwise, we need to add coconut. And that is this for loop. I know I'm going really fast here. How am I on time? Okay. So once we have colored in the donut, come back out, done the frosting, then we're going to, what this is basically doing is looking at the square of pixels that the donut covers. So for the origin minus half to the origin plus half, and then all the way down the height of the donut, it's going to look at the color of the pixel that is there, and if it's pink, cool, it gets a little star, which if you print them out all in a row, looks kind of like coconuts. And so that is a Tweetcart I understand, because I wrote it. I've got some other ones here that look cool that I don't especially understand. But if I have a second, I can show you, to uncomment it, which is difficult left-handed. Here, I'm going to put this down. Oh, and this flip, too, it pulls whatever's in the buffer and puts it on the screen. So if you're not using your update and draw, you got to flip it manually. There's fewer characters, so I'd recommend it. So this one, and again, hashtag Tweetcart. There were some really cool ones that just got uploaded today. Like, definitely follow it. So this was a Master Hijinks, it's the creator. And this one is actually playable. It's the only playable one I have seen. So it's an infinite runner, and up jumps. And when you fall off the screen, you fall off the screen. All right, boop. So I've been able to figure out that he's got a table, and he adds some random sized rectangles, and then I kind of lose the plot. They're much easier to understand if you make them. I have just a couple more I just want to show. If you are interested in learning Pico 8, like I said, I'm not an expert. I had not touched this before, I don't know, last October. The Portland Indie Game Squad, which, I don't know, can you see the cube pigs on my laptop? They're a super cool group of people, and they stream, like every Monday night, somebody who does Pico 8 dev, and that is basically how I learned. Look at me now. So this is super cool, right? You stare at this all night. So this, I know what this does. This is a fill pattern. So you can tell it, see the checker mark? You can tell it to not fill in the pixels in certain patterns. And then a bunch of stuff happens. But I encourage you to find the ones that you think are cool, comment out things, change variables until you understand what's going on. So like I said, it's here to play with. It's here to have fun. And let's see. There. This one's easier to read. There's the question mark is apparently an alias for print. So you're like, okay, there's going to be hearts. There's going to be hearts. It was Valentine's Day. So yeah, that is what I wanted to share with you tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you check out the Tweetcarts. I hope to see them out there. If you do publish one, at me, at Next Level Banana. And if you have questions about Pico 8 or whatever, I'll be here all night. So thanks a lot.